Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. This is Tega. If you are new on this channel, you're very welcome. If you're a subscriber or you continue to visit from time to time, thanks so much for coming again. I really appreciate you. In this video, I'll be showing you how to make this lovely trendy AGBADA BUBU dress. You can call it a kaftan dress as well. So what you need is to lay your pattern paper on the table. You can lay your fabric instead of a pattern paper. And today I'm going to be working with 60 inches width of fabric, and you need 3 meters of fabric or 3.5 depending on how much you want for the length. When you fold the 3 meters over, you would have 1.5 meters of fabric on each side. The front panel and the back panel will have 1.5 meters each. Now you want to fold along the width, the 60 inches width, and you would have 30 inches. I want you to take note of the places on fold. Once you have your front panel and your back panel laid out, you want to go ahead to the next stage. Now the next stage is to work on the neckline. I would be taking 3.5 inches for the neck width, 3.5 inches. I'll be working with millimeters instead of inches because of the pattern paper size. But I want you to visualize your fabric. On your fabric, you want to take 3.5 inches for the neck width. Take your 3.5 inches neck width. Then the neck depth for the front panel is 3.5 again. If you want, you can take 3, but I'm taking 3.5. So we've got 3.5 with 3.5 as the neck depth. Then you want to take 1 inch for the back neckline. And once that is marked, you want to draw your curve. It's going to be a round neck for the front. So that's it. That's the back and that's the front neckline. So you want to do the same on your fabric. So next now I want to take the shoulder measurement. The shoulder measurement is 16 inches, and when I divide it into 2, I would have 8 inches. So I want to mark the 8 inches there. If your shoulder is 15, that will be 7.5. Then you mark your 7.5. Now from the shoulder point, you want to mark 10 inches. 5 for the first pleat and another 5 for the second pleat. The rest of the inches left will be for your sleeve. Next, you want to take your hip line measurement, your vertical measurement. So from your shoulder, you mark your hip line measurement. We don't need the bust or the waist. So you mark the hip measurement and you move on to your knee line measurement. Whatever your knee line measurement is from your shoulder, you need to make the marking. And once you make your knee line marking, then you would go and mark about 6 to 8 inches down. So from the knee line, you want to take 6 to 8 inches. Mark 6 to 8 inches below your knee line. So now we've got 3 lines. That's your hip line, that's your knee line, and that's your below knee line, which is 6 to 8 inches. That's our neckline, our shoulder line, the first pleat, the second pleat. That's the hip line, knee line, and below the knee line, and that's the hemline. right? So we move on to the next stage, and the next stage is marking your sleeve opening. So you want to take about 12 inches for your sleeve opening, or 14 inches depending on your preference. First, you want to cut the back neckline, and once you cut that, you want to open up the neckline. Complete the drafting of the front neckline, and once you've completed marking that, then you can cut it. Once you finish cutting, you want to apply 4 inches on the front neckline. Make your marking and cut. Now you have your front neckline opening. Once that is done, you want to cut the neckline facing, and you need to position your neckline like this. I want you to notice how I've done that. So you've got the back neckline on one side and the front on the other side. And what you need is to grab your fabric, spare fabric, fold it like that. Make sure it's unfold, and place the fabric on top of the facing like this. And what you need to do is to grab your tailor's chalk or your marker, and you want to draft the neckline. Just transfer the neckline like this. Take your time and draft your neckline. And once that is done, you want to take 2 inches for the depth of the facing. You want to pay attention to the slit area, because below the slit, below that 4 inches you cut, you want to come down by 2 inches from there for your facing. Just watch what I'm doing. So I'm going all around and making my marking. Now I'm transferring all the markings to the facing, and I'll be applying the 2 inches all the way around. You want to remember that I'm only applying millimeters instead of inches, because I'm using a small size paper for the pattern making. For the neckline slit, you want to apply your preferred shape. Either you want it a bit curvy, or you want it in a kind of rectangular shape for your facing. So it's up to you what shape you apply. Now you want to grab your scissors and cut out your facing. So once you've cut your neckline facing, you should have something like this. And what you need to do is just to place your facing around the neckline and stitch all around. Remember to make the slit, and it's optional. You can decide to slit before placing and sewing, or you can leave the facing uncut. After sewing, you can now apply your cut. So you stitch all the way around on the right side of the fabric, and you turn it over. And when you turn it over, you would have something like this. The facing will be sitting on the wrong side of the fabric, and you would have the slit all nice and stitched down like that. So we're gonna move on to the next stage. Like I said earlier, each of the pleats is 5 inches. We have 10 inches in total, so 5 inches for each pleat. So you want to grab your ruler, you lay your fabric flat on the table so that there will be no mistake. So you want to use your tailor's chalk and make the marking. That's the first pleat. You want to make sure your pleats are well aligned, otherwise it's not going to look nice. So take your time and draw out your line. Of course, not using a marker, a tailor's chalk instead. The pleat runs across from the front panel to the back panel, all the way to the hemline. So this is how you're gonna fold the first pleat. Make sure you work yourself from the shoulder all the way to the hemline for both the front panel and the back panel. So here I'm trying to find the midpoint for the first pleat and the second pleat, hence the marking. So here I've finished folding the first pleat. So I'm going to be working with the second pleat. The second pleat is not going to run all the way to the hemline. It ends at the line below the knee line. It ends at the line below the knee line. And if you notice, what you need to do is to curve in the pleat. It's just gonna form a kind of collar shape pleat. As you can see there, it just blends into the line under the knee line. I'm gonna show you in a bit. Still trying to fold the paper. It's harder with the paper compared to using the fabric. So I'm just trying hard to make sure I can show you properly what it will look like. So that's the line underneath the knee line. You want to make sure the pleat just curves into the first pleat. Can you see? It's a bit curvy and it sits under the first pleat. Can you see? At the line below the knee line, it curves into that. So that's what you need to do, and it goes all the way to the shoulder line and to the back panel. The same thing has happened. It will curve in to the line below the knee line. Make sure you remember that. So you would only have one pleat running all the way to the hemline. Only the first pleat will run to the hemline, right? The second pleat will not run all the way. It will end at that point. So make sure you take a good note and you do the same for yours. That's it. So this is what you would have. Now you want to fold your panel back again. If it's your kaftan fabric, you fold it like this again. So you have the front and you have the back. And once you've done this, you want to move on to the next stage. Now we're going to be sorting the sleeve opening plus the hip line. Right, what you need to do is to fold back your fabric into 4. And by this stage, you would have stitched down the pleats. Make sure you don't leave them unstitched. Stitch the pleat and fold your fabric back to the original state we had it before the pleats. So now you're going to be taking your hip line measurement. You want to check your hip circumference divided by 4 again, plus loads of allowance like 3-4 inches. Make sure you have, we're gonna be using the whole width anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So you want to fold 2 inches along your sleeve opening. We need 2 inches for this. We need 2 inches minimum for the opening because we'll be stitching it as well. Top stitching by the sleeve. You'll be top stitching that, right? And now, guys, before you fold the sleeve area, I want to emphasize that make sure you get the hip first. Make sure you cut out your hip first plus the 2 inches allowance. So once you do that, you want to cut out your hip. Reminding you again, guys, don't fold the sleeve area before cutting your hip line. Make sure you cut the hip line first to the hem line before you take your 2 inches allowance, right? So now I've folded in my 2 inches allowance on the edges, and this looks stunning. Even though it's a brown paper, you know, it still looks amazing. You can really see the kaftan taking shape. So you want to top stitch the pleat like that. You top stitch there underneath like that. Not on the edge, but where the pleat is sitting. Make sure you pin it down in the right place before stitching down. You stitch all the way down, all the way down. Then also you take 1 inch or 1.5 inches, whatever, for your hem allowance. I had to go along with the size of the drafting paper I had, so I could have a sleeve and everything. So I reduced the size of the pleat here. But when you make yours, make sure you have 10 inches, 5 and 5 for each pleat. Once you finish stitching all the stitchables, your garment is ready. If this video has been helpful, consider subscribing, press that notification bell to notify you anytime I post a new video. Like, share, leave me a comment. I would like to hear from you, and I'll see you in my next tutorial. Till then, look after yourself and bye for now.